My name is Fanelli, if you don't know me. I'm the co-founder of a couple of businesses here in Pittsburgh. Full Stop, we make websites. We have been doing that for about 4 years now. United Pixel Workers, which is a t-shirt company, t-shirt brand. And Cotton Bureau, which is another t-shirt brand. We'll talk about that stuff a little bit later. I feel a little bit naked up here because normally I'm up here with my partner in crime, Nate. Usually we do these sorts of talks together. When Kate asked, she actually asked us to talk this month about the Connect theme because we have a couple of businesses that help connect people together. But Nate had to go and have a kid a couple of weeks ago, which kind of at least knocked him out of commission for a few weeks. So I'm up here by myself. So I figured while I was up here by myself, instead of just talking about our businesses and giving you guys helpful hints, tips, and tricks about how to connect people and how that helps your business, I promise I'll get to that stuff later. I figured I'd tell a little bit of a personal story first. The truth is, when Kate said that the theme this month was Connect, there was one person that I couldn't get out of my head. Thinking about how important he's meant to my life, how many people he's connected me to, how many jobs I have because of him, how many significant others I've dated and married because of him. And that is, told you, twitchy little finger. That is my friend Chris. Anybody know Chris? Chris Velasco. Any hands in the audience know Chris Velasco? We got like a couple of hands. It's everybody, it's all my friends. Well, you're gonna know Chris in a minute here. Chris and I met in college. We weren't roommates, but we lived a couple doors down from each other at Tower C at Pitt. Any alums of Tower C in the room? It's fine. Chris is one of my best friends from college. He's a Pittsburgh local, grew up in Ingram, went to Montour High School. He's Pittsburgh born and bred. Chris is responsible for an inordinate amount of people that I know in my life. Mostly beginning when I moved back to Pittsburgh after college. Chris let me crash on his couch. I'm embarrassed to say, for about 6 or 7 months before I got my first job, got my first place. So if you'll indulge me for a little bit, I want to quickly run through a few of the people, and it's more than a few, that Chris has introduced me to. Let me zip through the next few slides here. This is my ex-girlfriend, Kim. Kim and I dated for 6 years. We moved to Philadelphia together. We had a couple of apartments together. We even had a couple of kittens together. Gratuitous kitten shot. That's Negley on the left and then Ellsworth on the right. Before I met my wife, Michelle, Kim was, I would say, my most significant other. I met her because when she was a freshman at Duquesne, she got liquored up on Captain Morgan's with her friend Susie and went knocking on doors in the dorms. One of them happened to be Chris's best friend, Sean. Sean brought Kim around to a party one day when I was living on Chris's couch. I met Kim, and the rest is history. This is my friend Mikey. Mikey is one of my, I would say, 4 best friends in the world. The reason I know Mikey is because Mikey was best friends with Kim in high school. So no Kim, no Mikey. Mikey's responsible for this photo at Mikey's wedding. This is us sitting on a torpedo outside Soldiers and Sailors in Oakland at Mikey's wedding. That's me on the right, and him on the left. I'm proud to say today that even though we both met through Kim, neither of us talk to Kim anymore. I got Mikey. Mikey's my friend now. I was briefly in a band for about a year. About 10 years ago, I was the drummer. We were called the Lights Ahead. We weren't any good. None of you ever saw us. I can promise you that. Our biggest claims to fame are one that I think we briefly held the record for the highest attendance at Club Cafe on the South Side, and that we didn't do this, but we almost recorded with the same guy who recorded Interpol's "Turn on the Bright Lights." That didn't happen. This guy was the lead singer. This is John Zabrowski. He goes by Jonathan Graves now, changed his name. Moved to Brooklyn. He's an electronic musician. I met John because John was cousins with two people separately that weren't cousins with each other. Those two people went to high school with Chris, and John actually lived with Chris for a little while. So I met the lead singer through Chris. I also met the guitarist. Also met the lead guitarist through Chris. That's Josh on the left there. He's now in a band called Bullet and Snow Fox out in LA, and he wears bright red pants. Josh went to high school with Chris as well. Things killing me. My first job out of college was at a place called Ripple Effects Interactive. It's now known as Barclay REI. It's a web design shop in Oakland. The reason I got this job is honestly because I had nothing else going on at the moment. This is maybe 6 months after I graduated from college. I just moved back to Pittsburgh. I found this temp listing in Pittsburgh Craigslist, and because Chris was letting me crash on his couch, I was able to get a job here. Otherwise, no Ripple Effects. Ripple Effects, on a side note, has been responsible for a ton of my personal connections, including this guy who's in the audience today. This is Devin. I met Devin at Ripple Effects. When I started as a temp, I was there for a couple months. I got hired. Devin started about 6 months later, doing the same thing that I was doing as a content entry, data entry temp. Devin, over the last 10 years, has become my best friend. Of everybody that I call my best friend, and like I said, I call about 4 people my best friend. Devin is probably the bestest best friend that I have. We talk all the time. There's no life decision that we don't run past each other. I was the best man at his wedding. That's me in the back there. He was the best man at my wedding. And in that band that I just mentioned, Devin was the bass player. I gave Devin that mohawk. It didn't last for very long. The second job that I had was at a place called Impact. Impact was a search engine marketing company in the South Hills. I was an account manager there. I got the job at Impact because while I was at Ripple Effects, one of my contacts was a woman by the name of Melissa Burgess. A couple years later, when I was looking for a job, I emailed Melissa and I said, "Hey, does Impact have anything?" She had me in for an interview. I got the job and worked there for about 1.5 years. But why this is important is because I met my coworker, Michelle, who is also in the audience today. And why she is important is because about 5 years after this, she became my wife, Michelle. Come on. There we go. AV troubles. Nothing I can do about it. Our anniversary was 3 years ago yesterday, by the way. Or was our 3-year anniversary was yesterday. Let's go back to Devin for a second. A couple years pass, I go to grad school. Grad school doesn't work out. This is in Philadelphia. I moved back to Pittsburgh and I need a job again. So once again, I reach out to my friends. This time Devin, who was working at a place called Mind Over Media in the Strip District. Mind Over Media is like a 30-year-old video production company. They had a very small web design shop. They hired me as a project manager. I very quickly became a designer there. Why this is important is because I met this guy, Nate. This is my favorite picture in the world of Nate. You can see how good of a father Nate is in this photo. So without my buddy Chris, going back to him, there's no Ripple Effects, there's no Impact, there's no Devin, there's no Nate, there's no Mind Over Media, there's no anything. A couple other people real quick. Maddie and Ron, a couple of my boys who are usually in the crew. Both of them went to high school with Chris. I spent a year working at the Shady Side Market back in 2004. You know, it is the place on Walnut Street with all the fancy, like, $7 apples in the windows. Worked there because of Chris. If I never met Kim, I never would have gone to grad school in Philadelphia, so I never would have spent a year at Drexel, which means that I never would have spent a year working at this very fancy furniture store waiting for people to come in and buy $20,000 sofas. That's me sitting in the junior Panton chairs. Never would have met my friend Chuck, who was my coworker there. Chuck got me riding a bike. I'd never really ridden a bike before, but a bike became a huge part of my lifestyle. That's Chuck. Never would have met my friends Tara and Kara, who went to grad school with me, and today are some of my very dear friends. My favorite part, for all the baseball fans in the room, I never would have seen Pedro Martinez pitch 6 innings of no-hit ball in Game 5 of the '99 ALDS against the Cleveland Indians, which is one of the greatest postseason pitching performances of all time, if not for Chris. Chris was my ride to Cleveland. So if you're counting along at home, Chris is responsible for among other things, 4 jobs, 2 best friends, long-term girlfriend, 2 business partners, grad school, an entire band, my wife, and countless other things. So I promised you some practical advice. Here's the first bit. One person can change your life. Some of the connections that I have with Chris are a little bit tenuous, but I can say pretty comfortably that without Chris, so much of my life would have been different. So much of my life would have gone in another direction. I would have met other people. I would have lived in other cities. I would have had other jobs. The whole thing. All right, so let's move on to some business stuff. Who knows this guy? It's Kevin Souza. Kevin is probably the most notable chef here in Pittsburgh. He's the chef at Salt of the Earth. He's the chef at Union Pig and Chicken, Station Street, Harvard, Highland, and a couple other projects in the works. I met Kevin back in 2008. Kevin was another connection through Chris, actually. I met Kevin because of China Millman, who used to be the Post-Gazette fine dining critic. Knew Kevin, and China and her husband Michael were best friends with Chris and his wife Jess. So back in 2008, I just moved back to Pittsburgh a couple months ago. I had a job, I didn't need the money, and I was really interested in cooking. I was really kind of fascinated with the kind of life of the restaurant kitchen. I knew that Kevin was moving restaurants. At the time, he was at the Bigelow Grill downtown, and then he was moving to the Red Room in Shadyside. And I wanted to get some experience in the kitchen, see what it was like. So I kind of arranged a meeting, met Kevin. A couple weeks later, I was working the line with no experience. I wasn't like shaking pans or doing any of that stuff, but I was doing cold setups for desserts and making salads and little kind of light prep work and basically just being one of the guys. Where this would lead is for the next, I would say, 4 years, I became Kevin's, I guess you could say, his kind of creative right-hand man. I designed everything for every one of his restaurants. I designed the Salt of the Earth logo. I was involved in some talks about the interior design of Salt of the Earth. It's a little hard to see because this is Salt of the Earth when it was under construction. Kevin was such a part of my life back then that my wife and I actually got our wedding reception at Salt of the Earth before it even opened. So that was kind of a big deal. A couple years later, one more note on this. The food at our wedding was like Southern soul food barbecue. Pulled pork, fried chicken, mac and cheese, cornbread, that kind of stuff. A couple years later, Kevin approaches me and says, "Hey, do you want to start a restaurant together? I know that you're way into barbecue and Southern soul food. So let's do this." That became Union Pig and Chicken. For a time, I was part owner. Same deal where I designed the logo, designed the website. I was involved in the interior design. The whole 9 yards. When this was happening, Station Street happened. There was a hot dog shop for sale. Kevin decided to buy it, and we did the whole thing for this: the identity, the logo, the website, the whole thing. And if you haven't seen this website, I invite you to do so. It's a hell of a website. Here's Harvard and Highland under construction. So for a time, I got to kind of live out one of my dreams, which was to get involved in the restaurant industry, from a kind of formative perspective. Second piece of advice is you make your own luck. Up until this point, I wasn't really all that happy in my 20s. I had a bunch of crappy jobs. I had a couple of relationships that didn't really work out. I kind of took the opportunities that came to me. The relationship with Kevin is the first time that I really went out and grabbed something. I saw a connection to be made. I went out, made the connection, and I didn't really expect it to turn into what it turned into. But a couple years later, it blossomed into, I was the part owner of a couple of restaurants, which is pretty crazy. The unfortunate postscript to this is that Kevin and I don't really talk that much anymore. Relationship kind of fell apart within the last year. I'm no longer involved in any of this stuff. And that's a little sad. But even a bad connection can turn out to be a good one. We get props all day long for the work that we've done for Kevin's restaurants. We get attention all the time, for the work that we've done for him. And starting a restaurant was kind of one of those bucket list moments for me. It's something that no matter how bad things got or how bad things went, it was something I always tried and I did it, and it's by all accounts successful, and it's out there. So even a bad connection can turn out to be a good one. Let's talk about Full Stop now. Nate and I started Full Stop back in 2009. Again, we worked together at Mind Over Media. We were pretty fed up with the way the management had been treating us at the time. I'm sure some of you in this room can relate. So we decided about halfway through, I'd say 2009, to start our own company. We knew that we wanted to do better work. We knew we wanted to do it in a better way, but we also knew that kind of wasn't enough. We wanted to connect. We wanted to get more involved in social media. We wanted to blog. We wanted to go to conferences. We wanted to do all these different things, and our company really wouldn't let us. So when we got out, we knew that our work would be pretty good, and there's some merit to that, but we knew that it wouldn't be enough. So the next lesson is being good isn't good enough. I guess it's a cliche that in web design or in design in general that if you put out good work, good work will come back to you, and that's true to a point. But we knew that we'd have to connect with people at events like this. We knew we'd have to go out and make connections in the industry to make those sorts of things happen. This is United Pixel Workers. How many of you guys know about us, United Pixel Workers? All right, good. A lot of hands. Hopefully you bought a lot of t-shirts. This is one of our attempts to reach out. The early days of Full Stop, we didn't know anybody. A lot of people who start businesses in our position, they have some connections, or they've worked at a notable place. They have a lot of Twitter followers, or they have a blog that everybody reads. At the very least, they have a lot of freelance work. We didn't have any of that stuff. All we had was a couple of brand new MacBooks, and we started our business. We didn't even have any savings, really. United Pixel Workers was our first attempt to create a product. It was our first attempt to do something besides client work. It was our first attempt to make some connections in the industry. And so we put it out there, honestly, because we didn't have anything better to do. We only had one client job at the moment. This is the early days of United Pixel Workers fulfillment. By my count, there's something like 20 shirts there. This represents a month's worth of sales, by the way. As successful as Pixel Workers has become, it wasn't really all that successful at first. We were maybe selling 20 shirts a month or so, which barely covered our costs. About a year into the project, we decided to make one big change. We decided to reach out to some guest designers. We decided to connect with some of our friends in the industry and ask them if they would design shirts for us. And in the first month that we did that, we went from selling this many shirts to about that many shirts. That's about 200, maybe a little bit less. That was our first guest design shirt from Bobby McKenna, who, if you use Vine at all, Bobby designed all of Vine. So that was the first month of Pixel Workers. That was the second month. Then it looked like that. Then it looked like that. This is the Jessica Hish month, the month that Jessica Hish designed shirts for us. My car is completely full from top to bottom of packages. We started making t-shirts for some of our partners in the industry, not just our guest designers, but some notable people like Ardio, Dribble, Happy Cog, and then fulfillment looked like this. And then like that, it's about 1,400 t-shirts, something like that, in a given month. It's like 14 boxes of packages waiting to go out for the Postal Service. And then today, it's a little hard to see, but this is what the shelves in our office look like now. We have tens of thousands of dollars of merchandise. We sell about between 500 and 1,000 shirts a month on Pixel Workers, and about double that, or at least another 500 to 1,000 on our next project, Cotton Bureau. Last year, Pixel Workers, which grew from this tiny little project into what it is now, made us about $300,000 in total revenue, and we don't keep all that. We're not living like drug dealers or anything, but 300 grand in total revenue. We had about 400 products, almost 8,000 Twitter followers, 6,000 plus email subscribers, dozens of guest designers. Our shirts are seen all around the world. We have something on our website called Roll Call. If my laptop wasn't all the way up in the top, I'd show you. Where people can tag their Instagram photos and it'll show up on our website, and you just scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll, and it's people wearing Pixel Workers t-shirts. And my favorite part is that Aaron Draplin designed our logo. If you're a big Aaron Draplin fan like I am, that'll excite you. We reach out to web designers because we are the most connected industry in the world. We are the most connected industry in the world because we're the ones that build the tools to connect people. It's a lot easier selling products to people who are already connected than selling to people who are at least fragmented. We see a lot of our clients make that mistake. They're talking to people who don't talk to each other. The other lesson that we learned is you can never have too many friends. This is a partial list of the people who we've met, the people who design shirts for us, the companies we've designed shirts for. And if you're in the web industry like we are, there are some pretty heavy hitters in this list that we now count among our friends. The other thing we learned is that no one is truly famous in our industry. We're not writing George Clooney, asking him to design a shirt for us. Anybody in our industry could walk down the street in any major American city or international city and be recognized by no one. So what we learned when we started reaching out to people for Pixel Workers is that everybody said yes, and that everybody really, in the first couple of days, wrote back to us. We started off small with some people that we met on Dribble, Bobby McKenna and Tyler Galpin. Then we started to reach a little bit. We asked Jeffrey Zeldin, who's the godfather of modern web design, Ethan Marcotte, who basically invented responsive web design, the aforementioned Aaron Draplin, who's graphic designer extraordinaire, Jessica Hitch, same thing. We kept on getting more bold and bold and bold, asking these huge people to design shirts for us, and nobody said no. And the reason that we like to think that is because nobody's too big for their britches. There are a couple people, but we won't get into them. One other thing we learned is that sometimes it pays to be shameless. This is our new thing, Cotton Bureau. Cotton Bureau is an offshoot of United Pixel Workers. Basically, it's a curated, crowdsourced t-shirt community for designers. Designers send us designs, we take a look. If we decide to accept it, we put it on the site. If it gets a certain number of pre-orders within a 2-week period, we print it, we ship it, the whole thing. This launched back in June. And when we did launch it, we asked every one of our friends to help us pimp it. And if we didn't have the friends that we made from Pixel Workers, Cotton Bureau wouldn't have been nearly as much of a success as it is now. When we launched, I think we had tens of thousands of visits from around the internet. We sold about 1,500 shirts in the first, I think, 4 or 5 days of the site. The site traffic was about 25% of all of last year of Pixel Workers within the first week. We reached out to our buddy LC Angel, who runs the men's gadget tech blog Uncrate, who we'd met through a couple of friends along the way, and he linked to us, and that got us a zillion people coming to the site over the first week or so. We sold a lot of t-shirts because of that, and it's because we weren't really afraid to ask. Authenticity is everything in this industry. People can smell bullshit from a long way away, and I think the fact that we come out of this industry is really important to us. It's important to other people, and I think it's a big reason why people have really grasp onto our products as much as they have. Something for the local folks. Pittsburgh's a pretty small city. There's a lot of you people that I know in the room, and unless you're my wife or my best friend or my business partner, I met you within the last 5 years. Some people that are good enough friends to, I've invited you to my house for cookouts, for social events. Coming to events like this is part of what's made us us. And I thank you all for coming here at 8 o'clock on a Friday morning to do that, because usually I'm just rolling out of bed at 8 o'clock on a Friday morning. Now that we've gotten some sort of stature in the industry, we're certainly not superstars, but now that we've got some kind of stature in the industry, we like to, we like to kind of pass along whatever we have, whether in the form of blog posts or, we'll be guests on anybody's podcast. We'll do anybody's interview. We'll speak at any conference whenever people ask us to, because we think it's part of our, it's part of our privilege that we get to do this. So now we like to help connect other people together. We'll wrap it up here because I know I only got a couple minutes left. I want to say one thing about Kate. If you want a model of how to be successful connecting to people, Kate's your girl. She moved here a couple years ago. Did you know anybody when you moved here? She knew Nick. Well, she was married to Nick. That doesn't count. Okay, well, whatever. Kate didn't know anybody when she moved to Pittsburgh a couple years ago, and now she runs this goddamn town. So if you want somebody who's a model of how to connect, she's a better model than I am. That's all I got. Thanks to everybody. These are all my aforementioned Twitter accounts.